The plains wanderer is this really unique and somewhat enigmatic bird. It is the only member of its family. Its closest living relatives that we know of are from South America. It's critically endangered. It's nomadic, which means it wanders all over the place. So conserving a species where you don't know where it's found is really, really challenging. So one of the things that we have been able to do is use the unique calls that they make. And then we use that as a way to listen for the bird. So we put out recorders in the habitats where we think they'll be, program those recorders to target the times of day when they normally call, which is in the morning, around dawn and dusk. And then we analyze all those recordings to try and pick out that call. The first time I heard that call and we were like, yes, this technology works and we can get it to work on this species, is sort of that light bulb moment. And then we did have a chance to do a survey in the wild and get to see the birds. And that feeling of inspiration you get from connecting the research that you do with the actual birds on the ground is just remarkable, and it kind of inspires you to want to keep helping and learning about them. They're very cute too. They're just these little things, and they have very round heads and long, thin necks, and just kind of pop around. Plains wanderers, they have a very low frequency call, and we just kind of can scan the spectrograms and look for them, but that is very time consuming. So what we've been able to do is build a recognizer or a classifier. We use a computer to find the unique signature of the plains wanderer. We build a model of that using computer algorithms that look at the duration, the spacing between the notes, how intense the sound is, how it changes over time. And then the computer model then scans all the other recordings for us. And then it says, I think this is your plains wanderer, I think this is your plains wanderer. And then we go through and we say, yes, it is, no, it's not, yes, it is, no, it's not. The way we used to look for plains wanderers was someone would be at a location, they would have a car that has a spotlight on it, and then they would drive really, really, really slow and look for them in the grass. And so you can imagine that would take a long time to go a very short distance. And we found that that provides an amazing amount of data, how many birds are present, whether they're breeding or not, but you can only do one site at a time. And so by being able to have recorders at multiple sites at the same time, you can actually do simultaneous surveys. So we can link up the breeding data from the on-ground surveys with the audio data from the audio surveys and the environmental data all into one picture to kind of understand better where they're found, why they're found there, and sort of look at predictions of if these environmental conditions change, what to expect the birds to do.